The storm clouds hung low over the mountains of Aether, glowing faintly with silver light. The air smelled of fire and sorrow. Far above the valleys where normal dragons slept, the oldest and rarest of them all was dying. Her name was Seraphine, the albino sky mother. Her scales were white as ice and shimmered with threads of soft blue. She was huge, larger than any living creature on this world, and her breath made the clouds roll like the ocean. But now that breath was weak and shaking. Her great chest rose and fell with a sound like thunder fading away. Around her, young dragons stood in silence. Their wings drooped. Their eyes were full of fear. None of their spells or ancient fires had helped her. Every attempt only made her cry out softly, sound that tore through the hearts of all who heard. "She will not see another dawn," said Vale, a bronze-scaled elder. His voice was heavy with grief. "Her fire is fading. The flame that holds the sky itself will soon be gone." The others bowed their heads. Even the wind seemed to stop. Then the sky trembled again, not from Seraphine, but from something falling through it. A streak of orange fire cut across the clouds. A metal craft, small and wounded, came crashing down through the storm. It screamed as it fell, throwing sparks into the air until it struck the mountainside in a blast of smoke and dust. The dragons turned their heads sharply. "What is that?" hissed one. "A human ship," Vale growled. "From the stars? None of them should be here." Through the drifting smoke, a figure stumbled out. His armor was burned and cracked, his face streaked with blood and ash. But his eyes were alive, bright and determined. He carried a small silver pack on his back and a strange weapon that hummed faintly at his side. His name was Commander Elias Thorne. He had been fighting in the void above Aether when his ship took a hit. Now he was stranded miles from his base, with no signal and no allies. All he could see were mountains and the faint glow of something enormous lying across the peak. He started to climb, not knowing what waited above him. Every step was slow. The air grew colder, sharper. Lightning flashed behind the clouds, painting shadows on the rocks. When Elias reached the last ridge, he stopped breathing for a moment. Before him lay the dragon. Even broken and bleeding, Seraphine was beautiful. Her scales shimmered like crystal snow under moonlight. Her wings spread across half the mountain, looked like torn sheets of silver silk. Around her stood other dragons, massive, proud, and angry. Elias froze. The sight was something his mind could hardly hold. One of the dragons roared, a wall of sound that made the rocks shake. "Human!" It thundered. "You dare enter sacred ground?" Elias raised his hands slowly, showing he meant no harm. "I didn't mean to. My ship crashed. I just need help." "Help?" The bronze elder laughed coldly. "You bring fire and steel, and now you ask for help." But before the dragons could move, a soft voice filled their minds. Wait. It was not a shout. It was calm, ancient, and heavy with pain. The voice came from Seraphine herself. "Let him come." The dragons hesitated. None could disobey the Sky Mother. They lowered their heads and stepped aside. Elias, still trembling, walked forward. Each step brought him closer to the giant creature whose breathing rattled the ground. He stopped near her face, where one eye larger than his whole body opened slowly. The eye glowed pale silver and reflected him like a tiny shadow. Seraphine studied him for a long time. When she finally spoke, her words echoed inside his mind. "A human. I have not seen your kind in many ages." "You are far from home." Elias swallowed hard. "You're hurt badly." Her voice carried a faint smile. "I am dying, little one. The fire that keeps my heart beating is gone. It is the price of too many centuries." He looked down at the huge wound on her chest. It glowed faintly, leaking light instead of blood. The air around it was hot, humming with strange energy. He knew no medicine on earth could heal something like that, but still he couldn't walk away. "Let me try." The dragons, watching from behind, hissed in disbelief. One shouted, "You dare touch the Sky Mother. You will burn where you stand." Seraphine silenced them with a faint shake of her head. "Let him try." Elias knelt beside the wound. He He pulled out his small Medketa human tool of metal and Nanoglan stared at it helplessly. What could this tiny thing do for a creature the size of a mountain? Still, he began to work. His hands moved carefully, cleaning the shining edges of the wound. The gel hissed and melted away the black crusts where her skin had burned. He could hear her breathing change faster, sharper. "I know it hurts," he whispered, though he didn't know if she could hear him. "Hold on, please." He injected a series of nanobots, hoping they could at least slow the spreading decay. The tiny machines entered the glowing blood and vanished in flashes of blue. His scanner went wild. Its readings jumped and broke. Her body chemistry was beyond anything human science could understand. He looked up at her face. This might not work. Her great eye blinked slowly. "You care," she said. "Even though you owe me nothing?" "That's what we do," he said softly. "We try. Even when it seems hopeless." For a moment, the mountain was quiet, except for the hiss of wind and the hum of his tools. The dragons watched silently, unsure whether to feel anger or awe. The small human looked so fragile beside the dying queen of their kind. Yet his eyes burned with stubborn fire. Then, something changed. A faint light began to pulse under Seraphine's skin, weak but steady. Elias's scanner flickered again, this time showing life returning where there had been none. The dragons gasped. Vel stepped forward. "What is this?" "What did he do?" "I don't know," Elias said, breathing hard. "But she's responding." Seraphine's voice filled the air once more, stronger now. "It is. Warmth? A warmth I have not felt in 1,000 years." She looked at him, her gaze full of wonder. "Human, your fire is small, but it burns pure." Elias sat back, exhausted. "You're not out of danger yet, but I'm not leaving you." And as the first rays of dawn touched the peaks, the dragons saw something they would never forget. The smallest creature among them kneeling beside their dying mother. Refusing to surrender, the Sky Mother's pain did not end that morning, but hope returned to the mountains of Vathor. The sun rose slowly over the silver peaks of Vathor. Golden light spread across the mountain where the Sky Mother lay. Her scales glimmered faintly, reflecting soft colors across the clouds. For the first time in weeks, her breathing was calm. The dragons gathered around. Still unsure of what they had seen the night before, none spoke. They only watched the strange human kneeling beside their mother, his hands still stained with glowing dust. Elias Thorne had not slept. He sat quietly near Seraphine's great head, staring at the small medical screen in his palm. Numbers flickered and faded, unable to make sense of what they were reading. Her body was a mystery, half energy, half flesh, and yet something inside her had begun to heal. He looked up when he heard movement. One of the younger dragons, a sleek blue female named Ariox, stepped closer. Her scales shone like the sea. She lowered her head to look at him with sharp golden eyes. "You touched the Sky Mother and lived," she said softly. "No human should be able to do that." Elias gave a tired smile. "Maybe I got lucky." "Luck does not heal dying gods," she replied. "What did you do?" He hesitated. "I just used what I had. Nanobots, medicine, heat patches. I tried to stop the bleeding, stabilize her energy field. But honestly, I don't think I did much. She's the one fighting." Aria studied him for a long moment, her tail curling across the snow. "You're different," she murmured. "Most humans who come here bring war. You bring care." Elias looked back at Seraphine. "Where I come from, we have a saying, no one deserves to die alone. Not even in war. Not even someone we don't understand." Ryax blinked slowly. Something about those words settled deep in her heart. As the morning passed, Seraphine stirred. Her great eyes opened again, softer this time. The dragons bowed deeply. Elias rose to his feet and approached carefully. "You stayed," she said inside his mind. Her voice was warmer now, less strained. "I said I would," Elias answered. "How are you feeling?" "Like the stars are singing too loudly," she replied with faint humor. "But the pain is less. Your strange fire burns within me, gentle but firm." Elias smiled. "That's a good sign." Then her expression grew serious. You gave something to me, human. What was it? He hesitated. My nanobots, small machines that repair tissue. But they're linked to my neural pattern. They carry some of my cells, my energy. Her eye narrowed. Then part of your life now burns inside me. Elias looked down. Maybe, but if it keeps you alive, it's worth it. The mountain fell silent again. Even the wind paused. Seraphine's massive gaze softened. Few among my kind would give their life for another. Fewer still among yours. He shrugged lightly. Maybe that's why we keep surviving. We're too stubborn to stop trying. Later that day, Elias set up a small camp near her head. He organized his tools, refilled his power cell from his suit's solar pack, and began scanning again. The dragons watched from a distance. None dared come closer, though curiosity burned in their eyes. He spoke softly as he worked, almost as if talking to himself. Oxygen levels stable. Energy field holding. Good. Good. Seraphine listened quietly, her mind half in dreams. Through the faint psychic link between them, she could feel his thoughts, the flashes of faces he had lost in battle, the ache of loneliness in space, the heavy weight of guilt that he carried. You have lost much, she whispered into his mind. Elias froze. You can see that? I feel what your heart remembers. He swallowed hard. Then you know why I can't just watch someone else fade away. There was silence between them for a long time. Finally, Seraphine said, Perhaps that is what makes your kind special. You break, yet you still move forward. Night came again. The sky turned dark purple, filled with stars. Elias sat beside a small campfire, eating a ration bar that tasted like cardboard. He looked up at the glowing constellations and wondered if anyone back home would ever know what happened here. Ariax landed near him with a soft thud, folding her wings. You do not rest much, human, she said. Hard to sleep when the universe keeps throwing surprises, Elias answered with a faint grin. She tilted her head. Do you truly think you can save her? He looked toward Seraphine. I don't know, but I'll try until I can't anymore. Ariax studied him quietly. You speak like a warrior, but your hands heal instead of destroy. Strange. Where I come from, Elias said, poking the fire with a stick, the best warriors are the ones who fight for life, not death. She lowered her head beside him, her eyes glowing in the firelight. Maybe that's what the Sky Mother saw in you. As the hours passed, Seraphine began to dream. Through their link, Elias felt waves of light and sound, visions of dragon cities floating above oceans, of mountains that sang when the wind touched them, of a time when dragons ruled peacefully among the stars. Then he felt her pain. Memories of war, fire, and loss filled his mind. Alien ships burning her kin, skies torn apart, her last clutch of eggs gone. The loneliness that followed, he gasped, gripping his chest. Stop, please. The vision faded. Seraphine's eye opened weakly. I'm sorry, she whispered. You touched my soul deeper than I meant. Elias caught his breath. It's okay. I just didn't expect it to hurt so much. Now you understand, she said softly. Why? I wished to let go. To sleep. He shook his head. No, you still have something left, a purpose. You're not done yet. Her voice was faint. And what do you know of my purpose, human? He looked up at her, eyes glowing with reflected firelight. Because if you were, I wouldn't have crashed here. For a moment, silence hung heavy between them then. Softly, Seraphine laughed. It was not a loud sound, but the mountains echoed with it like music. Perhaps the stars sent you after all. The next morning, the dragons gathered again. They could see that Seraphine's color had changed. Her scales now carried faint patterns of blue light where her wound had been. The glow pulsed in rhythm with her heart. Vale looked uneasy. What has he done to her? That light, it is not of dragonkind. Ariax stepped forward. It is life. Can you not see? The human saved her, Vale growled. Or he changed her. Elias overheard them, but said nothing. He simply checked his readings and adjusted the energy regulators around her wound. His face was calm, but inside he was worried. He could feel something strange linking his heartbeat to hers. Every time she breathed, his pulse changed. Seraphine spoke gently. Do not fear it. The bond is not poison. It is harmony. Harmony. He echoed. Your life and mine are touching. You gave me your fire. I give you my strength. Together, we may both live. Elias looked up at her glowing form and whispered, Then let's live. That night, as another storm gathered over Vathor, the dragons looked down at the small human who dared to heal their goddess. Lightning cracked across the clouds, but the Sky Mother's light shone through it, steady, strong, and pure. And for the first time in centuries, the dragons felt something they thought they had lost forever. Hope. The third sunrise came to the mountains of Vathor, painting the clouds in gold and silver. The great dragon Seraphine lay still but strong. Her once weak heart now beat with soft waves of blue light that spread through her body. Elias stood near her shoulder, exhausted but alert. His armor was torn, his hands were raw, and his energy cells were nearly empty. Still, he refused to rest. He had spent every moment scanning, repairing, or adjusting his equipment. He knew something was changing inside both of them. When Seraphine's breathing grew faster, his heartbeat followed. When she calmed, his pulse slowed. It wasn't coincidence. It was connection. Ariax noticed too. You share her rhythm now, she said quietly, her wings half folded. It's like your lives are one. Elias looked at his trembling hands. Maybe they are, he said. I don't know how far this link goes. Sky Mother has chosen you, Ariax whispered. That is something sacred. He shook his head. I didn't come here to be chosen. I just came to help. She smiled faintly. Sometimes destiny doesn't ask for permission. By afternoon, the mountain shook again. A cold wind swept through the peaks, and the dragons lifted their heads nervously. Far away, dark clouds were forming, not a storm, but something else. Enemies, Vale hissed. I smell iron and smoke. Elias frowned. Who? The ones who poisoned our skies long ago? The Vorn Syndicate. Seraphine's eyes opened slowly, glowing like moons. They come for what remains of me, she said. They want my heart fire. It can power 1,000 ships. Elias clenched his fists. Then we need to move you, get you to safety. I cannot move yet, she replied. But perhaps I can fight another way. Her massive claws glowed faintly as she reached into the earth. The mountain trembled. Elias felt a sharp surge through his veins, a burst of energy that wasn't his. His vision blurred, and for a moment he saw through her eyes the sky, the stars, and the fleet approaching like a swarm of locusts. He stumbled back, gasping. What was that? The bond between us grows stronger, Seraphine said. Our minds are touching. You can feel what I feel. He wiped the sweat from his forehead. Then let me help. Show me what to do. Seraphine's massive head turned toward him. Her voice filled his thoughts, calm but powerful. If you wish to help me, you must complete the bond. The healing you began has tied our lives, but not our souls. If we finish it, I will live. But your fate will be mine. Elias froze. You mean if you die, I die? Yes. It is the only way to stabilize the fire within me. Your life energy can guide it back into balance. But once joined, there is no return. The dragons gasped. Vale roared. No. The human cannot carry the Sky Mother's flame. It will burn him to ash. Ariax stepped forward. Wait. He already carries her light. Maybe he can endure it. Elias looked up at Seraphine's glowing eye. If it saves you, I'll do it. You do not understand the pain you will feel, she warned. He gave a faint smile. Pain reminds me I'm alive. For a long time she stared at him, searching his soul. Finally she nodded. Then let it be done. The dragons formed a circle around them, wings spread. The sky darkened as clouds twisted above. Lightning flashed, but no rain fell. The air was full of static and power. Seraphine lifted her head high and let out a deep, low roar that shook the mountains. Her eyes burned bright white. Human. Vale shouted. Step back before it's too late. Elias stood his ground. I'm not going anywhere. Placed his hand on her massive chest, over the wound that still glowed faintly blue. The energy pulsed beneath his palm like a second heartbeat. Seraphine's voice echoed in his mind. Open your heart, Elias Thorn. Let your fire meet mine. He closed his eyes. He felt heat crawl up his arm, then spread through his whole body. Every nerve screamed, every bone vibrated. Yet beneath the pain was a strange peace, a rhythm of light and breath that matched his own. Images flashed before his eyes, stars being born, dragons flying through cosmic storms, humans standing bravely in burning ruins. The two histories intertwined, fire and steel, heart and scale. The mountain's peak burst into light. Ariok shielded her eyes as a wave of blue energy exploded outward. Lightning danced across the cliffs. The dragons roared in awe. In the heart of the storm, Seraphine and Elias floated together, her wings wide. His small form glowing like molten silver, the link between them deepened. Ilias's heartbeat synchronized completely with hers. The wound on her chest sealed with light, and his veins shimmered like flowing metal. Then the light faded. Elias collapsed onto the rock, breathing hard. Seraphine's great form trembled once, then steadied. Her scales gleamed with life again, the sickness gone. Elias. Ariax ran to him. Are you alive? He groaned and opened his eyes. They glowed faint blue. I think so. Seraphine lifted her head, her voice strong once more. He is part of me now. The bond is sealed. Vale stared in disbelief. Impossible. A mortal cannot share the soul of a dragon? Seraphine looked at the sky. He is no longer only mortal. But before they could rest, the first enemy ships broke through the clouds. Fire streaked across the horizon as metallic shadows descended. The dragons roared in anger, spreading their wings. Elias stood shakily, drawing his sidearm. They're here, he said grimly. Then we fight, Seraphine replied. Her voice filled his mind like thunder. He felt her power surging through him, the strength of mountains, the heat of stars. His armor pulsed with new energy, reacting to the dragon fire flowing in his blood. As the ships fired beams of plasma, Seraphine rose into the sky. The dragons followed, roaring in unison. Elias felt every beat of her wings as if they were his own. When she breathed fire, he felt the heat in his chest. When he aimed his weapon, the energy burned blue with dragonlight. Together, they struck like one being, human and dragon, mind and soul united. The battle raged through the clouds. Seraphine's flames tore through the first wave of ships. The dragons circled, their roars echoing like war drums. Elias, half human and half something else, guided her attacks with precision, reading enemy patterns, feeling her instincts as his own. But the enemy was strong. More ships appeared. Plasma bolts lit the sky. A beam struck Seraphine's side, throwing her into a spiral. Elias gritted his teeth. Stay with me. I am with you, child of fire, she answered. Hold fast. He reached out with his mind, focusing all his energy into her wounded wing. Blue light surged from his hands into her scales, repairing the damage mid-flight. The dragons below gasped. He heals her, even as they fight. Ariox whispered. At last the enemy broke. Their ships retreated, smoke trailing behind them. The sky cleared, and silence returned. Seraphine landed gently on the mountain, folding her wings. Elias slid from her side, breathing hard. His armor smoked, but his eyes still glowed with dragonfire. Vale stepped forward, awe in his voice. The Sky Mother lives, and the human stands beside her. Seraphine looked down at Elias. You have given me life, and I have given you mine. We are one flame now. Elias smiled weakly. Then let's keep it burning. As the sun broke through the clouds, its light reflected off both of them, man and dragon. Bonded by courage, blazing with shared fire.
The sky over Vathar was quiet after the battle. The air smelled of smoke and lightning. Shattered pieces of enemy ships still fell from the clouds, glowing faintly before vanishing into the snow below. The dragons flew in slow circles above the mountain, their wings heavy with exhaustion. But their hearts were full of something new. Not just victory, but wonder. At the center of the great peak stood Elias Thorn and the albino Sky Mother, Seraphine. They were both alive. Yet, neither was the same. Serafine's scales no longer shone only white. Threads of blue and silver now ran through them like rivers of light. The wound that once bled energy now pulsed with a steady glow, calm and alive. Elias, standing beside her, looked different too. His skin had faint patterns of light running across it. His eyes glowed with a pale blue flame that flickered when he breathed. Even his voice carried a strange echo, like distant thunder beneath his words. The dragons gathered close, keeping a respectful distance. None dared speak until the silence was broken by Ariax. "The Sky Mother lives," she said softly, bowing her head, and the human who gave her fire still stands. Vale lowered his wings. "He is no longer just human," he said. "Look at him. He carries her power." Elias looked at his hands. The glowing lines pulsed with every beat of his heart. "I can feel her," he said quietly. "Even now. Her breath, her strength that flows through me." Serafini lowered her great head beside him, her eye the size of a house. "You are part of me now, Elias Thorn. You carry my flame as I carry your heart." He smiled faintly. "Then maybe we both have a second chance." That night, the dragons built great fires around the mountain. The flames rose high, reflecting in the clouds like 1,000 suns. It was their way of celebrating life after near extinction. Elias sat near one of the fires, his armor off for the first time since the crash. The cold didn't bite him anymore. His blood felt like it carried heat from the dragon's own heart. Ariax sat nearby, curling her long tail around him protectively. "You have changed," she said. "Your scent, your aura, even your eyes. It is as if the mountain itself watches through you." Elias chuckled softly. "I'm still me, I think, just brighter inside." "Do you feel pain?" she asked. "Not pain," he said after a pause. "It's more like power humming in my chest, like a song I can't stop hearing." Ariax tilted her head. "That is the sound of the Sky Mother's flame." "She chose well." He smiled and looked towards Serafini, who rested under the stars, her body glowing gently in the darkness. Her breathing was calm now, and the snow round her shimmered with every exhale. For the first time since his crash, Elias felt peace. As dawn came, the dragons gathered again. The air buzzed with energy. They could all feel the change, not only in Serafini but in the world itself. The clouds above the mountain swirled with soft light, like the sky was waking from a long sleep. Vale spoke with reverence. "The Sky Mother's flame has returned. The balance of our realm is restored." Serafini lifted her head. Her voice echoed across the peaks, soft yet mighty. "My children, the cycle begins anew. Our world will live again." The dragons cheered, roaring so loud that the clouds trembled. But when the sound faded, Serafini turned her gaze to Elias. "And you, child of Earth, what will you do now?" He looked at the horizon, where the stars were still fading in the morning light. "I don't know," he admitted. "I don't belong here, but I don't belong out there anymore either." "You have become something in between," she said gently. "A bridge between worlds." He nodded slowly. "Then maybe that's what I'll be, the link between humans and dragons. We've both lost too much because we never tried to understand each other." Seraphine's eye glowed with warmth. "Then let that be your purpose. Teach them. Unite them. Let our bond be proof that life can rise again from fire." Days turned into weeks. The story of the reborn Sky Mother spread far and wide. Dragons from distant lands flew to Vathar to see the miracle with their own eyes. They brought gifts, crystals that sang, stones that glowed, rivers of molten silver. All offerings of respect. Elias worked beside Serafini each day, helping to heal younger dragons wounded in past wars. His new power allowed him to touch their energy fields, soothing their pain and closing wounds with light instead of metal. The dragons called him the Flamebound. At first, Elias laughed at the title, but when he saw how they looked at him, with hope and trust, he began to carry it proudly. Ariax often flew him over the valleys, showing him places humans had never seen, glowing forests, crystal lakes that floated in the air, and ruins of old dragon temples. Each sight reminded him how small humans were in the universe, and how great their hearts could still be. One evening, Serafini called him to the peak again. The sun was setting behind her, painting her wings gold. "Elias," she said, her voice soft like the wind, "our bond grows stronger each day, but it also ties your fate to mine. You must understand the path you walk." "I do," he said. "If you fall, I fall. But that doesn't scare me anymore. It should not be fear that guides you," she said. "It should be love, love for life, for both our kinds." He nodded. "I'll protect what we've built. I promise." She smiled, a faint glow running along her scales. "Then you are ready." "Ready for what?" he asked. "To rise," she said simply. The wind howled as Scifi spread her massive wings. The light from her scales illuminated the whole mountain. "Climb on," she said. Elias hesitated, then stepped forward and placed his hand on her neck. The scales were warm and smooth under his touch. In one fluid motion, he climbed up and sat between her shoulders. The dragons below looked up as the Sky Mother and her chosen rider rose into the air. With a mighty roar, Scifi launched herself from the cliff. The ground shook, and a wave of light followed in her wake. Elias held tight, the wind rushing past his face. They soared through the clouds, breaking into open sky. The stars stretched above them, endless and bright. Elias laughed, a sound full of freedom and awe. He could feel every movement of her wings, every beat of her heart inside his own chest. "You fly as one of us now," Scifi said. "I can feel it," he shouted. "The air, the fire, everything." They flew higher, past the storms, into the clear night. The stars reflected on her white scales until she looked like a living constellation. "This is our rebirth," she said. "Not just mine, but yours too. Together, we are proof that fire can heal as well as destroy." Elias closed his eyes and smiled. "Then let's make sure the stars remember," when they descended hours later. The dragons roared in joy. The sky above Vathar shimmered with strange light, blue and silver streams, weaving through the clouds. It was said that the heavens themselves sang that night. From that day forward, Scifi and Elias were never seen as separate beings again. Wherever she went, his voice followed. Wherever he stood, her light shone. They had become one story, a story not of war, but of rebirth. And as the dragons of Vathar looked up at the glowing sky, they whispered to one another the same truth. The Sky Mother was saved not by power, but by a human's heart. The winds of Vathar had changed. Where once the mountains echoed with the cries of battle, now they hummed with the gentle rhythm of life. The air carried warmth instead of smoke, and the clouds glowed faintly with silver light that never faded. Even at night, it was said that the light came from the bond between Scifi, the Sky Mother, and the human named Elias Thorn, the one who gave her back her fire. The dragons of Vathar no longer spoke of humans with distrust. They spoke of the flame-bound one, the mortal who touched the sacred and lived. Elias, though changed forever, still walked among them like a friend. He laughed, taught, and listened. He built tools to help them heal, and they taught him the old songs that shaped the winds. The bond between dragon and man grew stronger every day. But beyond the peace of the mountains, a storm was rising again, not of nature, but of choice. For months, travelers from distant lands came to witness the miracle. Some came from dragon tribes across the seas. Others were human explorers from Orbit, drawn by strange readings from the mountain's light. They brought words of warning. A new fleet was forming. Not the Vorn Syndicate this time, but the Union of Iron Realms. Humans who believe dragons were too dangerous to live. They fear what they don't understand. Elias said, standing at the edge of Seraphine's mountain. His glowing eyes watched the stars above. They'll come thinking they're saving humanity, but they're only feeding their fear. Seraphine's deep voice filled the air like a song. Then we must show them another way. Elias nodded. A way of understanding. "You're the bridge," she said softly. "They will listen to one of their own." He smiled faintly. "Then I'll make them listen." Days later, Elias stood before the gathered dragons. Thousands filled the skies, their wings forming waves of color across the clouds. At their center stood Scifi, radiant and calm, her scales glowing like starlight. Elias raised his voice so all could hear. "The humans are coming again. They fear what they cannot explain. But fear doesn't have to lead to war. We can choose to meet them not with fire, But with light, the dragons murmured uncertainly. Some growled low, remembering old wounds. Vale stepped forward, his bronze wings folding tight. You would ask us not to fight, even if they attack? Elias met his gaze firmly. I ask you to trust me. The last time I fought to save life, not to take it. Let's give them a reason to see who we really are. Serafin's voice carried across the wind. Trust the flame-bound. He carries my heart, and so they did. When the human fleet arrived, it was massive, ships of steel and fire, hovering like dark stars above the clouds. The dragons of Vathar spread their wings, ready to protect their home. But Serafini held them still. She rose slowly through the storm, carrying Elias on her back. The humans in orbit gasped as their scanners filled with light, one single, enormous shape glowing like the sun itself. The human commanders hesitated. Then, through open channels, a voice came through, calm, steady, unmistakably human. This is Commander Elias Thorne, he said. I speak not as a soldier, but as one who saw life beyond our understanding. The creature you fear is not your enemy. She is life, as sacred as our own. There was silence on the line. Then a confused voice responded. Elias Thorne? You were listed as missing. Presumed dead. I lived, Elias said simply, because something greater than fear saved me. And it wasn't power. It was compassion. Behind him, Seraphine's wings stretched across the clouds like an endless curtain of light. Her voice resonated through his, echoing across the frequencies. Humans of the Iron Realms, hear me. We seek no war. We seek only peace. The sound was both a voice and a song, deep, melodic, full of truth. It carried across the stars and into every heart that listened. On the human flagship, officers stared in awe. Some wept silently. Others dropped their weapons. They had expected monsters, not music. One by one, ships powered down their weapons. The red glow of battle lights faded to blue dot in that quiet moment. The war that could have burned to worlds ended before it began. Elias smiled faintly, whispering to Serafini, You did it? No. Child, she answered. We did. Weeks later, both humans and dragons worked side by side in the valleys of Vathar. They built new cities that floated between the peaks, half metal, half stone. Powered by dragonfire and human science together, Elias became a symbol, not a hero of war, but of unity. Children, both human and dragonling, ran through the fields under his watch. He taught them the old stories of courage and kindness, while Serafini sang to them in the evenings. Her voice rolling through the valleys like a gentle tide, Ariax often teased him. You've become a legend, flame-bound. He laughed. I'd rather be a teacher than a legend. Perhaps legends are just teachers who never stop believing, she said with a smile. But as time passed, Elias began to feel the bond calling him deeper. The fire inside him burned brighter each day, connecting him more and more with Serafini. He knew what it meant. The bond that gave her life was slowly calling his mortal body to its end. Yet he felt no fear. One evening, under a sky filled with endless stars, he climbed the mountain to where Serafini rested. Her scales shimmered with soft blue light. She looked at him with warm, knowing eyes. It is time, she said. He nodded quietly. I know. You gave me life, Elias Thorne. You gave my kind hope. Now, the fire calls you home. He smiled, his eyes glowing brighter than ever. Then let's fly one last time. The dragons gathered below as the sky mother rose once more. Elias on her back. Together they climbed higher than ever before, past the storms, past the air, into the silent dark between stars. Light surrounded them. Elias could feel her heart beating in his chest, and his heartbeat echoing in hers. Do you hear it? He whispered. Yes, she said. The song of humanity, the song of life. Their voices joined, one human, one dragon, and the sound became a melody that filled the sky. The stars themselves seemed to shine brighter in answer. Then, in a flash of pure light, they vanished beyond the clouds, not gone, but reborn, centuries later. Dragons still told the story. Humans, too, remembered when storms glowed silver over the mountains. People said it was the sky mother's wings passing through the clouds. When lightning flashed blue, they said it was Elias's flame guiding travelers home together. They became more than legend. They became the symbol of what life could be when two hearts, so different, yet so brave, refused to give up on hope. And high above, in the endless sky, a voice still seemed to whisper, if she can feel pain, she can feel hope. The dragons called it the song of humanity, and every creature who heard it knew the same truth, that compassion was the strongest fire of all.